Tommy, Bring a Trailer is no longer the car nuts paradise. And I'm going to give you 6 reasons, 6 points why that it no longer is the same place it used to be back when Bring a Trailer started in 2007.
No, you're wrong.
Let's have this discussion. First and foremost, let's talk about some facts about Bring a Trailer. First of all, the website was set up to sell rare and interesting cars, which it did back in 2007.
Okay.
It's not Craigslist, it's not Facebook Marketplace, it's not Mecum, it's not even Barrett Jackson, but it is an online forum where car nuts used to go to browse and check out the coolest, most unique, most, interesting cars there were. So not the kind of stuff you'd see at a used car dealership, but let's say a 325iX from 1988.
Sure, so here's how the system works. As a seller, you go to bringatrailer.com, you pay $99 typically, and then at that point you submit a whole bunch of pictures of your car, all the information about that car, and you're assigned a specialist who will review all your information and then come up with a listing that'll include everything written up nice with your pictures, or they can decline and say, no, your car's not a good fit for Bring a Trailer. And then on the buyer side, you go to bringatrailer.com, find a car you want to bid on, register as a bidder, plug in your credit card information, and if you win the car, Bring a Trailer charges 5% of the vehicle's price on top of what you agreed to pay for the car.
So basically both the buyer and seller pay, even though the seller pays less than the buyer.
So the seller typically pays $99 and the buyer pays between $250 at the minimum all the way up to $5,000. It's 5% of the purchase cost of the vehicle, maxed at $5,000 that Bring a Trailer will receive. One important point, there are premium services now available, but the vast majority still run on this $99 seller's platform.
Okay, so Bring a Trailer website says that they have a user base of about 140,000 registered bidders, which is
A ton,
and their user base is about 300,000 people, Tommy.
right.
And at any given time, there are over 200 live auctions.
Yeah, and one of the unique things about Bring a Trailer is buyers and sellers can go and comment on the posts. So they can answer questions, they can interact with people. It's like a big community.
Exactly, and that's what made it so special. But the things that made it so special are slowly eroding over time because it's gone from being a community to being a business. And I'll define that in 6 points that
Okay.
I want to make. But
Yep.
before we do that, I think this is a moment where we should do full disclosure. We've actually used the site now 3 times to sell 3 different vehicles.
Yep.
We used it, maybe 8 years ago to sell our old Tatra 603.
Yes,
Which was a unique vehicle. That was a really good experience.
I am over the moon that we got the Tatra this far, and I'm just really curious to see what happens when we get to Pebble Beach, because right now you would think the folks at the concourse, the undergrounds, would be pretty excited to have somebody come in who's driven a Tatra that they're featuring all the way from Prague.
Then you used it to sell your own Cherokee
XJ.
and that was a good experience.
Stage 2, this is steep and articulated. It's gotten a lot more articulated actually over the years. So we stop, lose all momentum, and I'm gonna try to take the difficult line. See how the articulation looks. Holy cow.
And last year we used it for charity to sell a Wrangler cheap Jeep project that we built up and then gave $500,000 to charity.
Yes. Okay, so got a little bit of a hill here. See how the traction and the low range gearing is in this Jeep. So I'm in low range, automatic transmission in the drive. So I'm gonna drive up here, stop right in the middle, and see if we have the low range torque to pull us up this hill. Okay, there we go. That's pretty darn steep. Yeah, it probably doesn't look that steep on camera, but it's pretty steep. So first gear. Oh yeah, look at that. That was really good, actually.
And for the most part, all 3 of those were great experiences, but we'll get to that.
Yes,
All right.
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. So let's talk about the 6 points that I have. At number 6 is the fact that there are just way too many auctions. I remember going to the site and seeing like 7 or 8 auctions and just digging through it and really geeking out on the vehicles. Now I go to the site, well, you can see it behind us, and it's just overwhelming.
So the way it used to work is once a week they would post all their cars, and then, pretty much the same time next week, the auctions would last 7 days, and then they would expire, and there'd be a whole nother set of cars that would show up. So now it's more of like eBay Motors, where it's continuous buying and selling, buying and selling. And my argument there is, while it was great in the old days, there were just too many cars that got too popular. You couldn't post them all at the same time. So having these cars coming and going creates a lot of diversity. You see a lot more cars for sale through Bring a Trailer than you used to have, in the old system.
Yeah, but the old system was magic, right? It's like the difference between going to your neighborhood grocery store and going to Costco. Right? The neighborhood grocery store, you get to know the people, you know exactly where everything is, you know exactly what you want, you get in, you get out, if that's what you want, or you stay and,
Yeah, but you have one brand of potatoes, and they're only going to be organic, and there's only going to be one of them because everyone else is trying to get the same potato. At least now at Costco, you have 13,000 brands of potatoes, and you have a lot of options.
Yeah, but the magic has gone poof.
I don't know about that.
All right, the next issue I'm going to call the realtor problem. And I used to have a real estate company, and I'll explain, right? So it takes the same amount of work to sell a house for $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million. And a realtor usually makes 3% of that commission.
Sure.
So at $100,000, the realtor makes $3,000. At $1 million, they make $30,000. And at $10 million, they make $300,000. So the best realtors are always trying to sell the most expensive homes, which means that once upon a time on Bring a Trailer, we had very inexpensive, affordable cars. So I would go there and I would enjoy fantasizing and sometimes actually even bidding on cars because they were affordable. Now you go to Bring a Trailer and there are these auctions that basically compete with Mecum and Barracuda. They're so far out of my price range because that's where the money is, unfortunately.
So what you're saying is that Bring a Trailer is incentivized to accept the auctions and perhaps even promote the auctions that are going to make the most money for them.
Because it's going to take the same amount of work for them to sell that,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
X-type or the F-type.
I get it. A couple things, though. Bring a Trailer is not responsible for the high prices these cars go for, right? The market is going to dictate the price. And the other thing that we'll get back to in a little while is there are still quite affordable cars on Bring a Trailer. Like I was just looking at a 1980s Euro import Mercedes that sold for $3,500 no reserve. Or, for example, now there's a rather used E30 BMW that's going for very little money. Or, for example, a Jaguar that just sold for $5,200. I mean, they're out there. It's not only these super expensive Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
Yeah, there's also a Porsche 914 that went for $125,000.
Okay.
There's a BMW Isetta that went for $45,000. I mean, these are big numbers, right?
I'm not arguing that it always is representative of the market as a whole, but the market is the market. It's worth what someone's going to pay for it.
Look, I mean, there are car nuts that have, big pocketbooks, and then there are car nuts that have small pocketbooks. And now it feels like the site is more for the 1% of guys who are out there buying crazy expensive cars and showing them off to their buddies, as opposed to like the shade tree mechanic who fixed up an old car and then wanted to sell it because he wanted to do another project. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right, number 4 on my list, Tommy, is what I call the Facebook conundrum.
All right.
All right, and let me explain that. So basically, once upon a time, it used to be that if you wanted to sell a vehicle, you would take it to the newspaper, right?
Right.
And you'd get an ad. And then you'd hook the buyer up with a seller, and the newspaper would get their $45, and they had no responsibility for that sale beyond the fact that they were advertising that vehicle.
Yeah, sure.
And then what happened was Amazon Marketplace came along, and so did eBay, right? And if you buy something from the Amazon Marketplace, even though that is basically a platform, they will guarantee that that transaction mainly goes through. In other words, they'll guarantee that you won't lose money. So Amazon will say, if you didn't get the product, we'll pay you your money back.
Right.
And if the seller, for some reason, didn't get paid, they'll pay them.
Sure.
Right? And Facebook, on the other hand, has the exact opposite approach. This is why I call it the Facebook conundrum, right? Where they say, hey, no matter what you put on Facebook, we're just a platform. So if you want to, go and put all kinds of, let's say,
bad things.
Yeah, all kinds of deceptive things.
Sure.
Deep fakes, whatever,
Right.
almost whatever you want. Facebook will raise its hand and they'll say, hey, we're just a platform. This is not our responsibility. We're just, hooking up people. And that is in effect what Bring a Trailer does, because if that transaction goes wrong, right?
Right.
Bring a Trailer will not do anything outside of taking their fee to actually make sure that the seller and the buyer get their money. So once the auction closes, Bring a Trailer says, hey buyer, here's the seller, hey seller, here's the buyer, you guys exchange funds, good luck. And I think that is an exception that people no longer have. I think they have more of an expectation for the kind of service they get on eBay or on Amazon Marketplace?
Okay, so a couple of things. When the buyer wins a vehicle,
Yeah.
there's automatically a 5% charge held on that buyer's credit card. When they win the vehicle, that charge goes through. Okay, so they're incentivized to go through with the transaction because they just spent $1,000, $2,000. They just paid Bring a Trailer all this money, to win the vehicle. Now they won the vehicle. In theory, they're going to want to go out and actually take possession of the vehicle, pay the seller.
Yeah, what you're saying is that Bring a Trailer, once again, just uses the incentive of the two buyers and sellers wanting to get the deal done. But what if one of them doesn't want to get the deal done? You're out of luck. You are out of luck.
So I think what you're talking about, and I just saw this happen, there was an olive green, basically 190D that just sold no reserve at Bring a Trailer for like $4,600. It was a great buy. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a good buy. And Bring a Trailer got the buyer and seller together, and then it turns out, if you read through the comments, that essentially what happened according to the buyer is the seller said, actually, I'm losing too much money, I'm not going to sell you the car for $4,600.
Right, yeah, and then you're out of luck.
As well, the Bring a Trailer did ban the seller.
Oh, wow, that helps me a lot.
But, yeah.
Did Bring a Trailer get paid?
I assume they got paid.
Yeah.
I think that's a safe assumption. So yeah, I mean, it does happen, but if we've had nothing but good experiences with Bring a Trailer in terms of getting buyer and seller to pay, and I think a lot of people will as well. And the other thing too is you're not really competing with Amazon with buying and selling used cars and classic cars. You're competing with Craigslist, and Craigslist is just a disaster of scams and people trying to take your money to Algeria.
I think I would be much more comfortable if they took ownership of the actual transaction and not just kind of raised their hands up and said, now it's up to you guys. And let's face it, that's something that all the auction companies do, but we'll keep going with this, right? Number 3 is, it used to be that, like I said, JT Mechanics would sell their, fixed up vehicles. And now when you look at some of the auctions, you're seeing actually people flipping cars on Bring a Trailer. So people go and they'll check out Craigslist, they'll find an undervalued car, and then they'll take it, they'll spit and shine it, and they'll put it up on Bring a Trailer in hopes of making money on it. And that to me doesn't feel like passion anymore. That to me feels like business.
I mean, the rebuttal to that though is, if you do have a good solid car that you've owned for a long time, really cared about, you're extending your sales potential to a much bigger audience. So let me give you an example. That Cherokee I bought, right? It was a really clean, honest car. I represented it fairly. I took a really great video of it. And when I posted it on Bring a Trailer, they asked me specifically no reserve. And I said, sure, I'll list it for no reserve, expecting to get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 out of it. Just trying to get what I got into it. And it went for way higher than I was expecting, and I think way higher than it would get just posting it on a local ad, because you've got such a large audience base.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, but talk about what happened with the Scout, right?
Well, Bring a Trailer is very picky and choosy. So that Scout we had, I'll do an update video on this, but we ended up selling it because it was just far too unsafe, far too original to modify, and a little bit of a tractor. So I was like, perfect car for Bring a Trailer, let me post it. And I wanted like a reserve because it was a fair amount of money. And they said, no, we want to do no reserve. And I said, well, what if I lowered my expectation a little? They're like, no, we're only going to post it if there's
because
no reserve.
because they wanted it to sell. Right, and all auction companies do that. They push you to do no reserves because, if it doesn't sell, then they put in this energy and effort to sell it, and they get no money. With no reserve, they're guaranteed a fee.
Yes.
Right. So they're pushing you. Number 2, Tommy, is this issue with auctions as entertainment.
Okay.
And that basically is, once upon a time I used to go through Bring a Trailer and I used to read all the comments because it was really entertaining to see experts that knew stuff about cars that were being sold that I didn't know.
Right.
But now with so many listings and so high priced vehicles, it feels like it's unobtainium anymore. It doesn't feel like it's about the vehicle. It feels like it's about cars that I will never be able to buy.
Okay, a couple things though.
So it's not entertaining.
Yes, but it's more entertaining because there's more and more auctions, and there are just as many. There's thousands more comments than there were in 2007. There's a lot more people talking. And the good news is, if there's a car you're really passionate about, say like a W123 Mercedes, in the old days there may have been one that popped up a month or every couple months. Now there's going to be a bunch of them up there at any given time, and you have more people to talk to, more to communicate with. And there's still, like we mentioned earlier, relatively affordable cars if you do a little bit of digging.
Yeah, it's kind of that Trader Joe's issue, right? You go to Trader Joe's and they have what? How many things do they have? Like 2 things for each category, like 2 kinds of jams, right?
Right.
Whereas you go to Safeway and they have like thousands of different kinds kinds of jams, right? Not thousands, but certainly dozens, right?
Right.
And you feel overwhelmed by all that.
But when I talk to my jams, I like to talk to a variety. I like to get the strawberries opinion and the blackberries, maybe some Schmuckers and organic.
I don't want that much choice. I don't want that much price. I just want to be entertained, and I'm not entertained with 200 plus auctions. Okay. That's all right. And the last point is what I call the barracuda effect. And what I mean by that is auctions like Mecum and Barra-Jackson, right? Sell the same car over and over and over again. And when you end up with the barracuda effect, you end up with way too many cars that are just the same and not interesting anymore. And I think that's what's happening with Bring a Trailer.
I still think you see a good amount of variety. So for example, there's everything from a Peugeot 505 to a Porsche Cayman GT4. I mean, there's a lot of stuff up on Bring a Trailer. There is a 1980s Aries wagon we were just looking at. So if you do look around, I mean, yes, there's a lot of your standard Slam C10s with 350 crate engines, but there's also like kind of quirky and interesting cars that do pop up. And frankly, if you look at the world of auction marketplaces, there are some new sites popping up, but Bring a Trailer is still the gold standard for that weird, wacky, quirky stuff you just never see.
Yeah, not for me anymore. I think now, to be honest, I'd rather go and dig through Facebook Marketplace, and actually, if I'm going to spend that much time on a site, I don't want it, hand it to me on a platter at this point. I want to actually go and find the thing myself, which is kind of how I felt. Like initially, I felt like I was, mining for a vein of gold on Bring a Trailer, and you'd find it, and it was done in such a way that there were easily findable veins of gold. Now I think there's just too much noise and too much business and not enough passion, dude.
You do see it though, like this W126 that sold, which was a Euro import, $3,500, and you read the comments, everyone was like, dang, I should have bid on that because that was one heck of a deal.
Yeah, I guess the bottom line, Tommy, is that the community to me is maybe too big. In that it's become.
You can't blame them for their own success. I mean, it's good for them, right? Like they turned something that was small and tiny and brought it to car people out there, hundreds of thousands of car people.
Yeah, and in the process, I think some of the magic is gone. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think in the comments below. Are there other issues that we missed, or do you
positives? Other positives?
Or do you love Bring a Trailer and you want to support the other argument? So, Tommy, from now on, if you're going to go sell a car, where are you going to go?
If I'm going to sell an honest, well-represented car, Bring a Trailer.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, like, look at that Cherokee I bought for $3,300 locally, and I did very well on it. And I was fairly represented. It was a great truck, and someone got a new baby, and I feel like that was a really good situation, and that someone that wouldn't have seen that car if I had posted it on my little dinky ad now has a beautiful Cherokee to drive around LA.
Well, there you have it, guys. If you're looking to buy one of Tommy's cars, you'll still find them on Bring a Trailer.
Only the good ones.
As always, this is Roman.
And Tommy. Head over to TFL Car, TFL Truck, and TFLOffroad.com for the latest and greatest.
And news, views, and of course, real world reviews.
Yeah, you betcha.
See you guys next time. Ciao.